The draft process has started, and just like we're going to start doing every couple of weeks, go through our top five at a given position. Today, you get the quarterbacks. This is going to be a fun one. Croc's top five and my top five coming at you now on Locked On NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. Of course, I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back. As always, I'm joined by my guy, Ryan Tracy. And of course, we want to make sure we let you know that we are thankful that you made us your first listen of the day. This show is sponsored by Get Upside. All right, just download the free Get Upside app right now and use the promo code Touchdown to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. All right, man, we're getting into ranks. All right, quarterback ranks. We're starting off with them, and we're going to work our way all the way through. And the cool thing about this and how Ryan and I have this set up, we have no idea who has who ranked where. Also, we want to let everyone know this is obviously in the early rankings. They haven't done combines. They haven't done pro days. We haven't even really dove into the film as much as we would like. But from what we've seen and what we saw at the Senior Bowl, we have some things we could take away from that as well. How guys look, how they're throwing, how they measure, what things worry us, what things don't worry us, who's the playmaker, who's the safe one. All of that, we have an idea of who those guys are now. So we're going to start at the top, and I'm putting Ryan on the spot. Ryan, let us know, who is your top dog?
For me, it's always a process of who can I see the projection. For me, this is probably the position that requires the most projection, and I want to look at it as though I'm going to plug this guy into my NFL offense. So it's not just production. Production numbers are important, especially for a metrics guy like me. The athleticism is going to be important because escapability is going to be key. And no one's going to top Malik Willis. We'll get to him a little bit, though, because he's not number one, despite everything that happened last week. For me, it comes down to a combination of steady Eddie, being able to move the ball, a little bit of athleticism. Right now, as it stands today, until we see more from another guy, Kenny Pickett's still my number one.
All right, so the small hands, and did you hear about him being like double, even though he has small hands, he is like he's
Right.
double jointed in his fingers, so I guess that helps him like grip the ball better.
Yeah. Now, if he played in Florida, okay, then I would be like, okay, maybe there's a little concern. But I mean, the man's been playing in Pittsburgh. I personally am not concerned about. Will there be GMs that are? Absolutely. But me personally, from the way that he throws the ball, his control, I'm okay with it. I think you're concerned about it, though. What's your number one?
Well, I am concerned a little bit with Kenny Pickett because, you know, he's supposed to be the guy that played in Pittsburgh in those like harsh weather conditions. And we watched him throw Wednesday. It was a kind of a torrential downpour. Okay, that's a little over exaggerating, but it was raining consistently throughout Wednesday's practice. And I did not think he threw the ball well for a guy that was supposed to be the one that was the best suited for it. And I do think the hand thing is somewhat of an issue. Now, if I'm a team in LA or, you know, if I am in, like you said, maybe even Florida, even though it rains on and off there at random times, but maybe a place where it's not going to be as cold and as wet as often, maybe it doesn't matter as much, his hand size. But, you know, some of these teams at the top, some of these teams are RQB needy. He's going to potentially have to play in some cold weather, especially if he goes to like the AFC North. Or an NFC North. Like, do those teams just completely write him off, especially in the NFC North that is a division that is looking like they're going to need quarterbacks, you know, outside of maybe Chicago with Justin Fields and maybe the Packers with Jordan Love. The Vikings are up in the air, the Lions. And are they going to be like, you know what, we're not going to take Kenny Pickett because he just can't throw in these type of weathers he's going to be asked to unless he plays with the Lions. They play indoors 8 games of the season, but you don't want to have to go to Green Bay or, you know, Chicago late in the year and he has trouble, and that's what ends up costing you a playoff game. So I have my questions. I have to continue to watch him, but I was actually kind of surprised that he didn't throw very well in those type of conditions. So I knocked him a little bit, but a guy who I'm not knocking. And again, we talked about upside. I'm going with Malik Willis right now. He's my
Yep.
QB1. And I've been inconsistent with having him as my QB1, maybe because he's a little inconsistent as a passer. But I feel like there's not that one guy in this class that just gives me like, okay, I'm very confident with who he is, right? Everybody, there's just so many questions surrounding their game. So from that standpoint, give me the guy with the highest upside. And can I put him in a position with a coach that is going to be able to work with him to bring that consistency and get the most out of him? We saw him, just his playmaking ability in the Senior Bowl, the being able to make plays with his legs when plays break down. When it comes to the big time throws, I thought he made those the best at the Senior Bowl. Now, whether he also had the best 5 throws of the week, but he also probably has some of the worst throws of the week. So they have to really work on getting him consistent with playing under center, being able to throw the ball and be consistent with it, whether it's mechanics, his lower body, or other. And that's why I hear from quarterback coaches, it starts from the feet. Maybe his base is off, but getting him more comfortable to where he's more accurate and then letting his playmaking ability take over when need be. I think that's why I have Malik Willis as my QB1.
So you are squarely of the school that I'm going to take what his best is, and I'm going to back him down to what's bad rather than trying to pick up, what he's okay at and try to make that better.
Right. Well, I just look at the high upside and say, okay, I like this. And I see the throws that he's able to make all around the field and the special playmaking ability. And can I work with the inconsistencies and get those to be more consistent? But at least in the process of that, I should be able to get by a little bit with some of his athleticism. And that's what I'm hoping if I'm a guy team looking for a quarterback at the top of this draft.
I totally get it. And he's definitely in my top 5. We'll get to that in a bit. But number 2, I think it's going to be interesting. We should probably hit that on the backside though, right?
Yeah. But first, we want to talk to you guys a little bit about BetOnline. And BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues to march through the playoffs, right on to the big game at the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks, which last time I checked, the Rams -4.5 favorites. All right, that's a big line, especially with a team like Cincinnati that's kind of hot right now. But if you are going to put your money on it, you're going to go to betonline.net. And it remains the best spot for all the sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just football. BetOnline has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of this new amazing offer that's available for the 2022 season. BetOnline, where the games start. And I also have to talk to you a little bit about something that everyone who drives cars should know about. Matter of fact, speaking of driving cars, I went to go purchase a new car today, Charger, Dodge Hemi. Okay, had to get that strong engine. And where am I going to be getting my gas? Well, the app Get Upside is going to let me know. And our listeners are earning cash back for every gallon of gas every time that they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app right now at your App Store or Google Play Store and use the promo code Touchdown for 25 cents per gallon or more on their first tank. Listen, I know gas prices are rising. And even though I live in the South, I live in Arkansas, gas can be a little cheaper here. It's starting to rise up again. It rose like by the time I went to Alabama and came back from the Senior Bowl, it was up like 20 cents. So you want to be able to offset that and use the Get Upside app that's helping you get 25 cents per gallon or more on your first fill up. All right, just download the app right now and use the promo code Touchdown. Crazy thing about it is there's no catch to any of this stuff. They want to help you get your money back. Some people that drive a lot, they're getting $200-$300 a month cash back, and you can cash out at any time using your bank account, PayPal, e-gift card, Amazon, or any other brands that you use. But again, you have to download the app right now for free. Is Get Upside and use the promo code Touchdown to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. Go do that right now. Get Upside. Promo code Touchdown. All right, so we went into depth a little bit of, our guys that we have at the top. And I'll start with my number 2 since you went first. All right. And I feel like it's a guy that maybe has been a winner throughout all this and maybe might rise to the top dog. And it's Matt Corral. He's been a winner because we haven't seen him He wasn't at the Senior Bowl. We didn't get a chance to see him throw in the rain and see what that looked like. All right. But I talked about the playmaking ability that Malik Willis has. And I think he might have just slightly bigger arm, a little bit more zip, and a little bit more playmaking ability. But Matt Corral, he has it as well. He's very fleet-footed, moves around extremely well. I think in the offense that his head coach, Lane Kiffin called for him. He was able to be efficient and throw to all levels of the field. I think he had some terrific receivers that did some good stuff. We had Drummond at the Senior Bowl, was okay. But yeah, Matt Corral, he's able to make a lot of throws. I think the ball comes out of his hands very well. He is a little bit smaller. I would have liked to see him get measured in at the Senior Bowl. Obviously, he's not a senior, so wasn't able to see that. But Matt Corral, I think he's the biggest winner of all this because we couldn't see the negatives live and in person. As this process plays out and we see more of what he looks like on a consistent basis from the film, I think we'll start to know a little bit more about where he ranks. But right now, I know he has the athletic ability that I covet, especially for quarterbacks coming out right now. And I know he has the ability to make the throws. We'll see if he can continue to stay healthy. I know he's dealing with an ankle injury. Should be good to go come combine time. So that's my QB2, Matt Corral out of Ole Miss.
It's funny that you say he might be able to rise because Matt Corral is my number 2 QB, and he's right there about to be number 1 as well. Because I agree with you. He's not the athlete that Willis is, but he's quick and he's maneuverable and he can gain yards with his legs without sacrificing the inconsistency on the passing side. That's the big difference for me. In terms of completion percentage, I think you feel better about him than you do about Willis. I think you can feel as good about him. What did he end up? 67% on the year versus 68 for Pickett. A guy we'll talk about in a bit actually had the best of them. So like, I think it's a nice blend. The question becomes is projection to what he has to do. And that's, again, why I think he's just a little bit behind Pickett for me right now. But this is the beginning of the process. Will he throw at the combine? What will he do at the pro day? Those are the things. I think really the Senior Bowl really confirmed for all of us, I don't know how you feel, that everybody is a question mark. And by being absent, it throws you back on the film. And I think that's what's keeping him in a strong position, one that he is right in the spot to maybe overtake. I think he can overtake Pickett. Do you think he can overtake Willis for you, just where they sit now?
Yeah, I mean, I think he can. And again, those questions will be answered more so when watching the film. And then hopefully we'll see if we can go to the combine. But seeing him throw live in person, what does it look like, especially standing next to some of the other guys? Again, that's a more controlled environment, throwing in shorts and T-shirts, as opposed to what we saw in pads and rainy weather. But just seeing how he moves, how he tests. He might test well, even in the athletic portions because he does move well. He had one game where he had like 150 rushing yards. I was like, what, Matt Corral? So, those are the things I think that could potentially help him. But the crazy thing, who do you have at number 3?
Well, I have your guy.
Malik Willis?
Almost. Not quite yet. No, I have Desmond Ritter.
Oh.
I just wanted to throw you off a little bit. It confirmed for me what I did see at the Senior Bowl about his smooth delivery, about the fact that he has what looks like a QB's arm that can use it when he needs to dial it up. The question is, why does he have the inaccuracy issue? That remains the number one thing for me. I didn't see anything mechanically that really gave me a telltale, but I feel like if you're in that situation and you need to make completions for yardage, I think Ritter gives you a slightly better chance than Willis right now, as long as he's not getting pressured out the box, and then Willis is the advantage. So that's why I have Ritter right now slightly above Willis.
Yeah, and Ritter, I mean, watch it again. I keep referencing the Senior Bowl because we were just there. We just got to watch him live. And a lot of times when plays broke down or something wasn't there, he was able to take off and effortlessly pick up 10 yards with his legs. So I think that is something that's going to be intriguing to a lot of scouts, just how he looks, how he's able to move. And he looks like he's comfortable in all aspects of it. Now, I have seen him in uncomfortable positions, watching him against Alabama in the Cincinnati, Alabama in the playoff game. Also the year before, watching him against Georgia, it was really choppy and up and down as well, where it almost felt like everything was on him to make all the plays. And you could tell, like, man, it looks a little overwhelmed at times. Senior Bowl, I thought he looked comfortable. Didn't do anything to wow anyone. There were a few nice drive throws, a few nice throws in the rain. I didn't see the ugly throws like you saw from some of the other guys. But again, knowing that upside and potential is there, I could definitely see why you have him at 3. I don't have him at 3. All right.
Okay.
And I have Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. And, again, we talked about some of the things I didn't care for, but I will say, his game film, like he played extremely well. He is another guy who is, they always say this was guys that look like him, sneaky athletic, right? But, we saw the big play he was able to make with his legs. I don't think he's a guy that wants to make a living of making plays with his legs, but he definitely has that type of ability. I think he threw the ball well. He definitely helped his receiver, Addison, win the Blitnikoff Award. So,
Right.
he had a big-time receiver that did extremely well, isn't eligible to come out yet. We'll be talking a lot about him next year. But, just what it looks like, I think he's calm, comfortable, watching him up on the podium, being able to see how he kind of conducted himself, how he handled the questions. I think he knocked that out the park as well. But Kenny Pickett, a lot to like. I have him at my QB3. Again, this is a guy who, if you just asked me a couple weeks ago, he might have been the first person I had. But, as this process plays out, some guys continue to move around. We'll see if he stays put. But we're going to get to our last two guys. First, we want to talk to you a little bit about rockauto.com. All right. Now, listen, guys, with the ever increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain store to have every part in stock that you need. And, why endure often pointless and seamless, intimidating questioning about the vehicle that you have and wait while this person is behind a counter on their computer when you can do the same thing? And shoes, I mean, they have one warehouse that they choose all their stuff from. All right. You can do all this right from your phone or your computer at home, your laptop. You don't have to leave home, and just go to rockauto.com. All right. Now, you want to save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50%, or even 100% more on the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership? Rock Auto, it's a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and their prices are reliably low. So that's something else that definitely is super beneficial. And you can go explore their easy-to-use website today and find a solution for all of the car parts and needs that you have. Just go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. And when they ask, how you found them, you just go ahead and write in locked on. All right. Locked on in there. How did you hear about us portion? So amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right. So we're down to our last two guys. This quarterback situation. And I would say this, I'm going to start by just throwing out a disclaimer of a guy who just did not make it for me. I wrote his name down, but I'm like, he's not in my top 5. Carson Strong. He's a guy I wanted to see a little bit more consistency from. And everybody that I talked to, I mean, they are all over the place. There are some people that are like, man, I like them, big, strong arm, all this, that, and the other. And there are some people that are just like, man, he was terrible. So a lot of inconsistency, a lot of different things that you're hearing from people. He's a guy that I had to leave off. You are a big fan of Zappy. Did Zappy make it for you? Or
I'm a Zappy guy.
Are you having
he made it? He is my 5, and it was him and Strong. It came down to it, like, and right now it might just be a little hangover, honestly, from watching the game film, because 5.6, that's Bailey Zappe's touchdown to interception ratio. That is significant. 6,000 yards thrown this last season. That's significant. You can talk about level of play at Western Kentucky. That's all right. The kid just played at Houston Baptist like 3.5 days ago. I mean, it's that big of a jump for him. So this is, for me, I really think there's 3 quarterbacks here that you can feel good about selecting, getting into your offense, and getting some production out of as rookies. Beyond that, I think it's all a toss-up. So for me, this is betting on upside, that his progression to the level that he's at now and to the NFL is going to continue. Is he a career backup? He might be. He also might be a guy that ends up surprising you and taking a job that you can rely on and get something done. I think there's a little bit of magic in there too, and so I'm banking on it, at least right now.
All right, so now that we know who your number 5 guy is, who is your number 4 guy? And then I'll give my last 2.
It is Willis. And again, okay, Willis is right behind Ritter. Like, the upside of Willis is so intriguing. I got to go back and see. And that too, 1 and 2 are really tight for me. 3 and 4 are really tight for me. Who is your 4?
So my 4 is Desmond Ritter. And we talked about him. I mean, this is a guy who I heading into this year, I would have told you, hey, he's going to be QB1. And it was a smart decision for him to go back. Now, I think it helps because it is a weaker class and there's not as much separation between the guys. Where last year, I mean, he clearly would have been QB, 5. No, not even 5, because you had Mac Jones go off 5th. So he might have even been behind him, or most likely. So we're talking about either the 6th or 7th quarterback, which still you'd be bumped up. I'd say where people feel comfortable with drafting Desmond Ritter would probably still be early day 2 or around that range. And, that would have been the case last year. I think that would have been the case this year as well. So Desmond Ritter, he's my 4. And, we already touched on a lot of the things that I like about him, but I feel like there's still more left in there to get from him. And there is more upside. And I think that's one thing that some of the scouts are going to see. But my 5th guy, a guy we have not talked about so far, and a guy that I thought would potentially be a top 10 pick heading into this season, but Sam Howell out of UNC. I will say out of the guys at the Senior Bowl, again, I didn't see a whole lot of pop. And I don't even know if this is a guy where I would feel comfortable taking in the first 2 rounds. And there are some people that are going to be much higher on him. There was no pop. There was no splash. Matter of fact, the first day, I didn't even notice him. Obviously I was watching, receivers, one-on-ones. I was watching the cornerbacks and things like that. But at no point was there a pass where I'm like, wow, who threw that ball? And then I look and see it's Sam Howell. So there wasn't anything that really necessarily jumped out to me. But he also was probably the most just even keel and consistent throughout the day. There also, although there weren't those, wow, who threw that? There weren't any of those moments where it's like, wow, who threw that ugly pass? Right. And then you look and it's Sam Howell. Right. So I think from that standpoint, I don't think he did anything to necessarily help his draft stock. I don't think he did anything to necessarily hurt it either. And, he's a guy, he lost a lot heading into this year. And I think that kind of hurt his draft stock a little bit. When you lose 2 running backs, like he did, that are going on to the NFL and doing terrific. When you lose 2 receivers, Dommy Brown, Daz Newsome, those things, it doesn't help. And it almost felt like throughout this year, he was trying to figure it out and find his way without having some of those guys that, really made big plays for him the previous year. You don't have that. So I think a lot of people were looking at him to potentially be kind of that Baker Mayfield, right? Because they look the same. They're built the same. They kind of even throw the ball the same and they move around. They have like this sneaky athleticism that they have, ability to kind of make plays with their legs. I think he kind of relied on his legs a little bit more this year than we've seen in past. But, I think throughout this process, he has an opportunity to maybe rise the most, or at least in my eyes, and maybe potentially be a first-round pick. Because right now, I don't see him as that, especially like what I did heading into the year. But, we'll see.
I'll tell you this, though. There are a couple of things. I think anybody in this class can rise to be number 1. I don't think there's a consensus or anywhere close to a number 1 here. If Wills comes out and actually shows better control and doesn't have the, why did he throw that kind of reactions here at the combine and at the pro day, maybe he can be the one for everyone and not just a couple of people. I think you're a little out ahead of that. Like maybe you end up being right and he's clearly and becomes the clear number 1. Right now, I just don't see it, but I think it's a wide open field. The other interesting thing to me is neither of us saw Carson Strong as a top 5. So I think that says something. But I think where we're actually fairly similar, I want to we might have different order, but I think we both don't see a whole lot of value at the position still. Let me ask you this just to kind of highlight it. How many first round grades do you have on QBs, or how many first round QBs do you think there will be?
Well, a grade and how many I would think there will be, those are different, right? Because I think,
absolutely.
Again, I haven't watched these guys enough to grade them just yet. And again, like we kind of talked about early on, like our orders with these guys will change throughout this process. Seeing them at the senior, the combine, how they work out, how the ball looks at their pro days, all that good stuff. But right now, I couldn't with confidence say that I 100% have a first round grade on any of these guys. Now, how many will get drafted first round? I mean, I could definitely see 2, at least 2.
That's good.
I can almost guarantee that 2 are going to go first round. If I had to bet on who those 2 are, even though I have Malik Willis as my QB1, I think there's just teams that are going to maybe like a little bit more of what they've seen from Kenny Pickett and probably Matt Corral. And if there's a third guy, then I think you start getting into the Malik Willis and Desmond Ritter type lane. And that's right
I'm
now.
with you.
That could change.
Yeah, exactly. I think it will, definitely. And so, like, even though we see things in a different order, I think we both recognize that there probably shouldn't be more than at most 3 and likely only 2 first-round quarterbacks if you're just going by what they deserve or what they look like compared to last year's class and the class before that. Now, we all know need will change what actually happens, but that's a different conversation.
Right. And we'll have different conversations tomorrow with our guy, John Harris. He'll be joining us on the show. Make sure if y'all aren't already, type in Locked On NFL Draft in your YouTube channel and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on our videos, all that good stuff. And of course, listen to the show daily. We come at you 5 days a week, and we want to thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Hey, send us in some reviews. How are we doing? We want to hear from you and all that good stuff. But from Eric Crocker at Eric_Crocker on Twitter, Ryan Tracy at Ryan Tracy NFL on Twitter, we are out. Peace.